2nd Sustainability Board meeting.
Right. Quite a crowd here tonight. Glad to see that. This is the regular monthly June 22nd, 7 p.m. meeting of the Satellite Beach Sustainability Board. And I'd like to start with the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, and at this time, I'd like to open the floor for public comment on any non-agenda items. And I think the time limit on that is 3 minutes. Is that correct, Julie? Yes. Anyone? So just come off to the podium and introduce yourself, and let's hear it.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, everybody. My name is Jeannie Beatty. I've been on the beachside area for about 30-something years. I have 3 sons. And my main concern that I had spoken to Julie with today is, of course, pollution that's happening on our beachside, but the main one is cigarettes. And we wanted to try to figure out a way in which we could make people more aware of the fact that you're polluting our beautiful beaches and we don't like it. Okay? So just I spoke with Julie. An example is how much time and effort just went in behind Sun on the beach. How beautiful it is. It's been done well. And cigarettes are everywhere. So my son works for the Marine Resource Council, and we just did the Lagoon Fest. So I had petitions, not really petitions, but just people to sign, would you help, would you contribute, what would you do to help? So the idea came about with an elderly gentleman that works with him named Bernie, to have wooden boxes made with hinges on the bottom. So basically all the city and people would have to donate would be for the hinges and for the metal, due to the fact that there is a retirement home in Palm Bay that has a woodworking shop. I worked for retirement homes for many, many years teaching exercise and entertaining. They would love to help. I know many artists that can make the sign, please put your butts here. It's necessary. We can do the best we can. And also very important is when you walk down the steps to the beach, you're on the beach right there, that there's something, a sign. Osler Medical has things. There's a place to put your fishing lures. There's overrun plastic bins and styrofoam. So my agenda is, because I love this area, my sons grew up here, is what can I do to help? I'm retired now, and I would like to see this happening, to clean with the cigarettes especially, maybe fines imposed. I will go and help as much as I can, because I know legally my ideas aren't allowed, like, something coming down from heaven and zapping them when they throw their cigarettes out. But especially if they're dumping, right there by the beach, or just the ignorance, and that's what I want to try to resolve some, and then reach out to other people, the retired people, the woodworking people, the artists, hey, and then help and make it nicer and not have so many butts on the beach. I said, please have nice butts on the beach, not ugly cigarette butts. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Is there any board members have a question for Jeannie?
Anybody? Any questions on ideas or thoughts or how we might be able to help? And anyone
I
who
have a
checks
question.
the legal things that we're allowed to do as far as imposing fines, things of that nature, I really appreciate that.
Well,
Any type of fines, unfortunately, a lot of times the only time people will wake up is when they're slammed and have to pay something. You'll speed until you get so many tickets, you'll do this. Okay, well, you know what? You're on our beaches, man. You save all your money all this year to come down here and be in paradise. Well, please come to paradise and leave it as paradise, or else we're going to slam you with a fine. Is that possible? Just an idea, in Pennsylvania, where I grew up, there was a big sign, $300 fine, blah, blah. Legally, you could turn in the guy that threw trash out of his window. And Pennsylvania wanted to keep it beautiful, so what they did is they'd get the driver's license number, they'd send the people a letter, they'd tell them that you have been seen, not keeping Pennsylvania beautiful, and they included a little trash bag.
Oh, right. I think maybe one or two board members might have some.
Yes.
Yeah, turns out that one of our board members, who isn't here tonight for some reason, approached me and was showing me, he's working on a project exactly on that. But instead of a wooden box, he has a design that uses PVC pipe.
Don't want plastic. Don't want plastic. Don't want plastic. That's what everybody said, could you do PVC? And I says, no, we want to go wood, we want to go natural, we don't want to go with the PVC. So I didn't mean to interrupt, but
Well,
that's,
the thing is, then probably the thing to do is, if you can leave contact information with a recording secretary, then
Love to.
he could get in touch with you and you guys could.
tell me, yeah, where to go, how to approach this, and what can we do? And,
He's the one that's kind of beginning to roll.
Good.
So I think he'd be the one to talk to, and I think Diamond's pretty
Okay.
capable of,
excellent.
ponchoing something.
Because I've also hit even the little stores and said, would you, what if somebody brought back that big old fat styrofoam cup that takes over 60 years to disintegrate and to get their peanuts in it?
Speaking of the devil,
Give them a dime back,
How's it going?
she just spoke about wanting to do something to keep cigarette butts off the beach. And I mentioned that you had been, she was talking about, she has resources to make wooden boxes to do it. I mentioned you were doing so. I think the two of you need to talk.
Yes.
I'd like to.
So I'm going to have her the contact info and everything with Julie.
Okay, excellent.
And definitely.
Excellent. And then we'll go on from there. Thank you very much, everybody. Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. Next will be my son.
Hey, everybody. So what I have for you guys, if you'd like to take it and pass it around while I'm talking. Okay. Starts out here, it's a PowerPoint presentation. I know we don't have time for a PowerPoint, but I'll leave it with you and send it to your emails. You can pass these around. They go along with that as well. Basic idea is that I have a plan for potential projects.
Can you introduce yourself?
My name is Nicholas Frank Sanzone. Been a resident of Satellite Beach in Indiana Harbor for over 32 years now. Been here as a student, been here as a resident. Now I'm here as an environmental scientist. I work for the Marine Resources Council over in Palm Bay. We do a lot of good habitat restoration work. However, as you all may know, it is rather difficult to get projects going sometimes. So working directly with the city and working directly with this committee may be one of the ways that we could get that ball rolling. So what I've done was I wrote up a letter describing a way to help the lagoon through these opportunities that you guys have as city members. And then I described a project. And then in the PowerPoint presentation, there's multiple projects. The idea was to create, as something that I've talked with Carrie Strom before she left, Manatee Park, the concept behind Manatee Park. And then using that as a stepping stone for more projects that would help restore the lagoon through native restoration here in our city. So Manatee Park, what I did was I gave you a full rundown of the budget, of the costs per plant, for the acreage, of the size, and the total square footage, using native planting, using the best possible pricing from local nurseries, from the Marine Resources Council as well. And then to go along with that, there's a project for shoreline improvements on residents' properties, which is the one-page letter that follows the second page. And then there's also a educational component as well, because if we educate the kids and we get them involved at a young age, the basic idea would be that they would grow mangroves, collect mangroves, use a greenhouse, whether it was built or funded by or sponsored by Lowe's or Home Depot, and then we could put that at Manatee Park if that was to your liking. And then we can go ahead and have them take field trips there where you can do educational outside classrooms, because that's how I got turned on to all this when I was 7 years old. And we took a little field trip down to the lagoon. Now, the educational component follows them throughout their career as students. Not only are they going to grow mangroves in their grade school years, but they'll end up planting those same mangroves before they graduate high school. Then if they wanted to be an environmental science major, they can go back through college and study the effects of what they've done over the course of their life. So you have those two projects. You have other pond restorations within the city, the Satellite Beach ponds by the skate park. There's two of them there, and then there's there's two of them just north of them, and then there's one right there by the park. Restoring that with some native grasses and vegetation would help for that absorption of extra nutrients that we get, and whether or not we see it running off directly from the roadways into the lagoon, it'll always go through the soil profile and out into the lagoons that way. So those are the three main projects there, coupled with the education is something that I think we could get behind together if we wanted to work on concepts for these projects and work further. If you wanted to contact me, my contact information is in there. And the basic idea is that we here today have an opportunity to use what we know to make the world a better place, and I want to get started, and the best way to get started is to work together. So I just wanted to introduce myself and give you guys some ideas and see where we can go together from here. You have the full support of myself and the whole habitat restoration team at the MRC, and then hopefully contact me with the ideas and follow up, and I'm interested to hear what you have to say. Any questions, please?
I have a question. Is the park that you're talking about, Manatee Park, is that DeSoto Park?
Yes.
Okay.
So right off of DeSoto, where the manatees currently congregate when we have the right weather, they get a little bit crowded.
Right.
And the opportunities for enhancing not only our ecotourism, but other economic booms to the town could be used from that one specific location if we were to create a pond area and plant it with native plants to show people what they could do on their own residential shorelines. We could kind of give them an aesthetic norm other than St. Augustine grass and Brazilian pepper, which Satellite Beach has done a great job, by the way. Thank you so much for your invasive removal efforts. It really does matter, and it really does show. Hopefully the other cities will take note and follow suit.
Well, Nick, thank you for all your support also with the Sampson Island. And
Oh,
you do a lot
absolutely.
of work
Yeah.
with us. But also the question is, on the other side of that area on DeSoto, is that our property? Is that Satellite Beach's property? Because I've noticed that they do cut the grass really low and
You're talking about the residents.
on the resident side.
That's in Harbor Beach, actually.
I think that's
Is that
Harbor,
in Harbor
right.
Beach?
Right, but the
So we'll
fields,
put mangroves on one side of that?
we'll do what we can do, and then we can talk to the
Harbor would
homeowners as
probably
individuals.
participate.
I think it's a fantastic idea. It
Thank you.
definitely needs to be done.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Any other questions? No? Would you like me to send you all a PowerPoint?
Yes. Could you email that to me?
Absolutely.
I think Harbor would participate in that. And we weren't planning, because the Soda Pond itself is not going to be a flow into the canal, because it's a treatment facility. So the picture, it would be good to put mangroves around the pond itself, I think, but there won't be like a flow in between the canal and the pond.
What was the reasoning for that?
Because it's a treatment pond, so the water's being funneled into that pond, and there'll be like denitrification material on the bottom of the pond to drip down into the...
Eventually, it will go into the lagoon just after it's been filtered.
After it's been filtered. right.
Absolutely,
So it's
absolutely.
not going to be an open
Right.
flow, so that, I just wanted to make sure you
No, that's
understood.
perfect. That's the type
So we
of
weren't planning to
conversation.
have manatees in that pond.
Oh, okay.
However,
We really don't want any more manatees in any of our ponds.
The efforts to remove them are extensive. I
They are.
understand completely.
But we do have the idea of using mangrove restoration on the sides of the canals and things like that is definitely along the, using that plant-based strategies is definitely something the city is looking into, so we'd be happy to participate in something like that.
Oh, excellent.
And I know that Indian Harbor Beach is leaning towards many of the same things that we're trying to do from a stormwater perspective, so I'm sure that they would participate as well.
Now, is Tortoise Island within the boundaries of Satellite Beach, or is that separate?
the southern 80 lots.
The southern 80. All right, I'm working with some residents in there to do some shoreline restoration, and, if we could have something going with the support of the city, part of the idea in there is that as the city maybe, like they do, I think in Palm Bay or Cocoa with rain barrels, they give a certain incentive to the resident. If there's something like that we can do in Satellite Beach as well, and then if you do vegetate your shoreline, you're preventing against erosion, which increases property value, both aesthetically and physically by retaining that actual property, and as well as creating more habitat and helping the lagoon, which is a healthy lagoon, is higher property values for our residents. And again, all these concepts and ideas I'd be happy to talk in more detail about with you guys. I don't want to take too much time. I know Sherry's got to get up here and show us about the bat houses. And thank you so much. Really do appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else?
Okay, next, we're going to have a presentation from Sherry Bliss Clark.
Yep, that's me.
Thank
Go
you.
fast.
Title I wear proudly. Good evening, thank you so much, and all of you wonderful people. You came to see the bat, right? She's in my pocket, see? Honest, there's a bat in my pocket. Yeah, normally this is like an echo chamber, right? Thank you so much. I'd like to thank John Stoner for asking me to come and talk with you folks. He came to one of my bat programs at Rockledge Gardens recently, and it was a great turnout. We talked about bats, and then we followed up the program a second Saturday after that with Bat House Workshop, and was very well received. I'm the president of the Florida Bat Conservancy, which is an agency that is statewide, and we've been conserving bats in Florida for 27 years. Bet you never heard of us, right? Most people have not, and that's one of the reasons as the president, I've decided to go out and start banging on doors and kicking down, all of the barriers. Most people do not know much about bats, and what they know about them, unfortunately, usually comes from popular literature and Hollywood and some really bad information sources. So I have provided you with an information packet. It talks a lot about insects. It talks about the most dangerous animal on earth, which you may be aware is the mosquito. Millions of people die annually all over the world from mosquito-borne diseases. So the mosquito is by far the most dangerous animal on the planet, and it exceeds all the other predators combined. So it's certainly an animal that should be in our minds, okay? The first page on your packet is actually talking specifically about Zika. This is a relatively new disease in the United States, but it has been prevalent throughout good portions of Central and South America for quite a while. The big horror, of course, is the microcephaly that comes from infection by pregnant women. So that's a whole different issue. Now, don't want to mislead anyone. It's here. I want you to know that bats don't eat just mosquitoes. Bats eat roaches and termites and flies and moths and all kinds of beetles, all kinds of insects that are flying around at night. Most of our 13 Florida species are actually opportunistic, meaning they'll eat whatever's out there, okay? If it gets in their way or they can navigate to it, they can echolocate on it, they're going to eat it. Some of our bats actually glean insects, not even flying insects, but crawling insects from trees, from walls, from fence posts. So they have a wide array of insects that they enjoy eating, which is good for us because, there's more than one kind of mosquito in Florida, right? Marsh mosquitoes are my least favorite. They're really vicious. After you look through the information from the top down, there's mosquito impact sheets underneath the UNICEF information about bloodborne diseases and the specific impacts to children worldwide. The one that caught my attention recently is a publication, and you have a copy of it. It was actually printed. The American Academy of Pediatrics did this at their recent symposium in March of this year, and it's titled Aerial Spraying to Combat Mosquitoes Linked to Increased Risk of Autism in Children. Duh. For a long, long time, people like myself have been saying there's a connection here. Now we have evidence that shows there is a connection to aerial mosquito spraying and other kinds of diseases that are impacting pregnant women as well as young children. It's really an archaic, broadband kind of way to just randomly kill everything that's out there. And it's not productive, it's not safe, it's never been healthy for any of us, and it kills as many beneficial animals and insects as it does the target. So what we're doing is killing the mosquito, yes, but we're killing the dragonflies and the mosquito hawks and the bats and all of the other creatures that are out there that are eating those mosquitoes too, because they're out at the same time of night. I live on North Merritt Island, and last night the darn mosquito sprayer came by in the helicopter, and I just cringed because every time they do that, I know the bats are going to die. It's just heartbreaking. What we're doing is leaving a void of predators that allows those mosquitoes to fill that vacuum because nature abhors a vacuum. And we are now farming super mosquitoes that are resistant to the pesticides we're dropping all over everything. We're killing the predators. We're making super bugs out of the mosquitoes. So where is this going to end up? I mean, really, you have to wonder. I think the mosquito will probably take over the planet at some point with our assistance. There's a lot of misinformation in the community about bats. They are not blind. They don't get entangled in people's hair. They do not carry histoplasmosis. You have a sheet on histoplasmosis. That is a naturally occurring fungus in soil. If you take a look at the map on the front of the page, the CDC shows you where Histoplasma capsulatum, which is the fungus, actually survives, and it ain't in Florida. So don't let an exterminator come to your house, folks, back there behind me, and tell you that if you don't get rid of those bats in your tree, you're all going to die from histoplasmosis. It's not going to happen. We don't have the fungus here. You know, it's just not going to happen. The same thing is true with the big misinformation and the big smear campaign over the last 100 years or so about rabies. Fact is that bats contract rabies less often than any mammal on Earth. Any mammal, including cattle. Actually, bats contract rabies a lot less often than even cattle. It's quite surprising. The very last sheet in your packet talks specifically about rabies and the rabies risk. Bats are mammals, and they can get rabies, but they need to get it from another animal that has the disease and bites them. They get it the same way anybody else does. It is a misconception that this little animal in my pocket is a carrier of rabies. They are not carriers. They're not carriers of any disease. In fact, we now know today that bats are very clean, fastidious animals. They spend about 35% of their waking hours grooming and making themselves beautiful. And as I walk around and show Boca here in my hand, who's a Brazilian freetail, one of our native bat species in Florida, as I comb her and touch her back, you'll see her combing her fur with her back foot. She just can't stand that I put my oily hands on her. So very fastidious, clean little critters. The incidence of rabies in wild bat populations is less than 1%, so that's less than one animal out of every 200, roughly. What that translates to, in fact, is that you have a better chance, actually, of getting struck by lightning here in Central Florida than you do of getting rabies from a bat. So, you know, you have to put these things in perspective. The risk is very, very low. It's just not something that even, really, most biologists don't even talk about it. It's so low. One of the things in your packet is the economic impact on insect control and the economic value of Brazilian free-tailed bats, which is the culprit in my right hand. This particular study was done by Bat Conservation International in South Central Texas. It's the same species, same animal we have here in Florida. Their economic impact study on the property, if you take a chance, if you want to take an opportunity and read through this whole hum, I mean, this is like put you to sleep stuff, but if you read through this entire study, you'll see that the habitat they were testing and their study grid was actually very similar to Central Florida in climate and in water, hydrology, humidity, those kinds of rainfall makeup, that kind of stuff. So it was very similar. I see no reason why this information does not transfer to us here. It absolutely will. And one of the other things in your packet talks about white nose fungus, white nose syndrome, which is a horrible disease that's impacting our bats all over the United States. It was introduced into a cave system in upper New York State from Europe. It's a fungus that occurs naturally in European caves, but not in the United States or in North America. It has killed, right now, since 2007, when it was first discovered, it has killed roughly 18 to 25 million bats across the nation, depending on who you ask. We don't have a good number on it. It's happened so fast, and it's been so devastating in some habitats that we are going to see regional extinctions of at least 3 species on the eastern seaboard. Now, we're fortunate in Florida because that fungus seems to be impacting only the bats that are hibernating, and our bats don't hibernate. We're really lucky. These guys are awake and active 365 days a year. I usually say 360 because we take 5 nights out for rain. We see these animals hunting every night of the year. We have a moderate temperature here most of the year, even in the winter, and our insect population does not really dwindle much, especially coastally. And so these bats are active all year long with insect control. It's not just a summertime deal for these animals. So we benefit all year from every single one of these guys. This little bat in my hand will live 25 years in the wild, on average, long lifespan. In her lifetime, she might have only 12 pups. Babies are called pups. They reproduce once in a while, not every year, and they have 1 baby at a time. This mother has 1 pup at a time. In her life, those 12 pups, only 6 of them statistically are going to survive to the first birthday. So we see that they're very, very long-lived. They're slow to reproduce, and they're highly sensitive to any kind of disturbance, including chemicals. All of these things, as we all know, are like the textbook prescription for extinction events. And as we spread as human beings, beings our footprint wider and broader and pave more and cut more trees and do more of what we do so well, we're not only impacting the things we can see, but we're impacting the things we can't see, like these little guys at night. And we're starting to see some pretty serious insect impacts from the disappearance of these animals. Now, just to give you some, there she's grooming, see, I told you. Just to give you some stats about bats in general, the economic value to humans, if you consider the fact that you brush your teeth every day, you drink probably a cup of coffee in the morning, maybe if you're a woman, you use cosmetics, maybe if you're a man, you use cosmetics. People who use rubber, string, paper every day in their lives, people who eat vegetables and fruits, chocolate is another product of bats. All of these things are directly related to bats in some way or another. So all of us are beholden to bats, whether we realize it or not, in almost every portion of our lives every day. I would urge this council to consider putting bat houses up at your county and municipal parks. Put them up at your municipal buildings. You've got ball fields. You've got a nice expanse of big open grass out here. These are all great places for bats. And of course, the very first, there's a bat house brochure in the very front that talks about how to site a bat house, choosing a good location. It talks about the 5 common Central Florida species that would use a bat house. It actually gives you some bat biology, some stats on rabies, and so it's really more of an informational piece than it is a bat house brochure. But it gives you lots of information about bat houses as well, and it's really a no-brainer. Once the house is up, you just wait for the bats to come, and they will come. And once the bats arrive, they will continue to use the house year after year after year, so long as it's remaining in standing position. All right? They have a high degree of roost loyalty. That's what we call that. That's why they're so blasted hard to get out of your attic. Or your roof, if you have tiled roofs. Okay, so, any questions, any comments? You want to see Boca up close? I can walk around and show her to you. I know the people behind me want to see her. You see her? She's pretty little. She is a full-grown adult. She's about 4 years old, and she's with me because she had a double wing break. She got trapped in someone's home and tried to escape through a closed window, which didn't work real well. She broke both of her wings, but she fortunately has healed beautifully. She's got a wonderful disposition and very easy to handle, and unfortunately is not releasable because she can no longer fly. So she is an ambassador for her species, and very cute while she's grooming herself.
I have a quick
Question?
question.
Yes.
What kind of animals typically are predators to bats?
We have a lot of natural predators in Florida, hawks and owls particularly. Also snakes of all kinds, because our Florida snake species tend to be quite arboreal. There are a lot of them are in the palms, and, red rat snakes and yellow rat snakes and those types. We also see any animal that is an omnivore, that's even a ground animal, like a skunk, a raccoon, a fox, and not armadillos, but feral hogs, unfortunately, also will eat bats. If a bat's on the ground, it's pretty much in danger of being eaten by someone. They must be very, very tasty, because a lot of things try to eat them. They like Chicken McNugget with wings, I think. Chicken McNugget with wings on the side. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that about you. But there are a lot of natural predators. Now, that's not to say that bats need help from us. They do not. This species in my hand has been clocked flying routinely at 65 miles an hour. Fast little animal. And they also have been seen hunting and navigating at 12,000, 11,000, 15,000 feet in altitude. So these are very fast, high-flying animals. They do not need our help to evade predators. Even hawks and owls have a very hard time catching a bat. Typically, they're going to capture the very young bats learning to fly, which are like teenage boys with learner permits. They get in a lot of trouble. Or they're going to catch the elderly, which is like me. They're not putzing down the road and not paying attention to the traffic behind me. So it's really the old and the young that bear the brunt of the predators, unless it's a mosquito control, and then they all bear the brunt. Yeah. Anyone else?
I just had a quick question on the regulation. It says that
Yeah.
we have a Florida administrative code that actually protects bats,
We do.
but then we have a Florida statute that requires us to spray mosquito spray that kills bats.
I
That
don't-
doesn't make any sense.
Well, that really, actually, when you think about it, that's not the only case of conflicting laws that you could probably come up with. I mean, I'm sure we've all come up with more than a few. Yeah, the statute protects the animal from anyone who might harm or kill them. Specifically, we put that, we were instrumental, the Florida Bat Conservancy, in getting those protective measures in place through the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission. And they protect the bats now under the non-game wildlife statute, and there is a specific clause that talks about bats and what you can and cannot do with bats. The bottom line is you can't harass them, harm them, move them, capture them in the wild, keep them as pets, trade in them, sell them. I can't sell you a bat house from the Florida Bat Conservancy like the one on the ground over here, which, by the way, is very, very affordable at $75, and handmade by me to make sure it's well done.
Does that include the pole?
It does not. It includes just the house. Yeah, yeah. And of course, I do have aluminum poles and lots of other options that I can discuss with you at another time. But it protects bats in bat houses as well as bats in structures. And most specifically, the important part of the clause is it really keeps people from excluding bats at this time of year when the babies are being born. We're in the middle of pupping season. What we've got between April 15th, tax day, and August 15th, my birthday, we have pupping season. And we are not allowed in any way, shape, or form and under any conditions to exclude bats, adult bats, from buildings because the adults will fly away and not be able to get back into the building. The babies will be entrapped in the structure and die. So you don't protect a species by trapping its pups, especially when they have a 60% mortality rate and they only have 6 or 7 at a time, in their whole life to begin with. So that is not a good practice. So we exclude this time of year for any kind of disturbance to bats whatsoever. Now, of course, FWC has a hardship permit for anyone who might have a severe condition that they maybe should have addressed 6 months ago and have let it go, and, now it's a big problem. So oftentimes with so many things, we see homeowners, we see renters, we see landlords that have bats in buildings, and it's no big deal until all of a sudden a baby is born in the building, and all of a sudden everybody starts screaming rabies, rabies, and now they have to quick evict the bats. Well, the bats have been there for years in most cases. Those are the folks that try to get the hardship exclusions.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have one more question. Oh.
I'm sorry, if we were to, how many bat areas, for example, that would we have to introduce to make a noticeable difference in a mosquito population decline?
The difference is almost immediate in that immediate area.
Okay.
People in that immediate area. When I say immediate area, I'm talking about roughly a half a kilometer in the diameter around where the bats would actually be living and hunting actively. You have to remember that bats are mobile, they're fast flyers, and they're going to start hunting in their immediate vicinity as soon as they drop out of the roost, whether it's a bat house or a tree or whatever, and they'll start hunting that immediate area. But they're quickly going to run out of insects in that spot, and they're going to span out over sometimes 3 to 5 kilometers. They can span out over quite a distance. In some parts of the desert southwest of the United States, some of these bats will fly hundreds of miles every single night in search of food. So they're good fast flyers. Here in Florida, they don't typically have to go too far to get a full belly. Every bat every night's going to eat about its own weight in insects, and that includes the mosquitoes, the roaches, those big palmetto bugs everybody calls those big things. I mean, these guys love them. I've seen bats this size eating palmettos. They're at least as big as the bat. I mean, there's some big ones out there. All of those types of insects are going to be on the menu. And since we know that different insects fly at different times of the night, just like other animals are out at certain times of the day, the bats are going to hunt when the insects are active. So they may take a break between 11 o'clock at night and 2 in the morning when there's not a lot of action, and they'll start hunting again as we start to see the early stages of dawn and a different kind of insect becomes active, maybe the early morning dawn-flying mosquitoes and roaches and beetles. So they're out there all night long doing opportunistic hunting is basically what it amounts to. You will see a difference if you live in the immediate area almost immediately. Homeowners report back to me that within the 6 weeks of them having bats actively hunting in the yard, they can't believe it. All of a sudden, one day they just go outside and there's no mosquito out there. There's all of a sudden they can go outside in the evening and have a glass of wine by their pool and not be bitten and not be eaten alive. And it does seem to happen literally overnight, although it does not. It's a gradual process that we see occurring. Now, it doesn't stop. It continues on. And the long-term benefits versus the 1-year benefit, the 5-year, 10-year, 15-year benefit of bats in the environment is something that even affects daytime insects. It's quite surprising, the correlation. We see a dramatic decline after 10 years of bats in an environment, a decline in other kinds of insects that fly during the day, like houseflies, for example. Wouldn't we all like to get rid of those little yellow deer flies? Boy, they bite. So there are longer-term impacts that bats are going to be able to factor into. It's difficult to predict the actual time frame. A lot depends on the number of bats in the area. It depends on how hospitable the area is to the bat activity. You can have a no pesticide zone or a pesticide-free zone in an immediate area, but if the whole neighborhood isn't doing that, then, that can have an impact.
Yeah, okay.
That kind of flows into the question I had. So if a resident were considering maybe putting a bat house up,
Mhm.
but also is considering having bees,
Yeah.
would that be a problem
Nope.
with the two animals?
Absolutely none. Bats are very social. They get along with themselves and other species of bats, but during the daytime, when pollinators are active, the bats are asleep. There is no interaction between daytime pollinators like butterflies, bees, even our native mason bees, all the types of native pollinators we have. No interaction at all between those daytime insects and bats as a rule. Now, I always say, and I get a chuckle when I say it, but it's true, sometimes there's an insect that's out at the wrong time of the day or night, and it has an alternative lifestyle, and there's a risk there. If you're a butterfly and you're out after dark, you might just get eaten by a bat. But honeybees are not on the menu as a rule, and there's no interaction. I have people on North Merritt Island that have citrus and other types of agricultural concerns, and they've got bat houses and honeybees, within the same space of this room, and there's no interaction. They're very easy to get along with. All right, well, thank you so much. I hope that you'll consider making a forward-moving step. You guys are doing a great job down here. I wish I could get North Merritt Island to do this.
Go over there to Adam, and he's got a camera.
Oh, over there.
You can put it up here,
Oh,
and then
okay.
we'll kind of usher all the kids that want to get up close and personal.
I will take Boca. You have to promise not to look at my hand.
One other thing to think about is an average bat will eat 1,000 mosquitoes a night. A typical bat house will hold 300 to 500 bats. And so they will, like Shira was saying, they will start in a small little confined area and they will work their way out throughout the night. So as long as there's food there, they will remain there. The problem is when we put the pesticides out there and we kill all of the food, they do go elsewhere, and then they will stay there until the food goes away there. So at some point, it'd be wonderful to say that, Brevard County Mosquito Control, stop spraying poison in our town, and get enough bat houses out there that will naturally take care of that problem. That's my pitch.
Now, I neglected to mention that Boca's wingspan, if she could fly, would be 12 inches. So despite the fact that this little critter's sitting in the palm of my hand, when you see these animals flying through your yard, they're going to look big to you. And you're going to call me and say, oh, the bats in my yard are this big. It's not really, okay? It's really this big. They're just much larger than the critters when they fly. 65 miles an hour is the average speed for this species. Generally, the sports car of bat world in Florida, you see her drinking, she's scratching.
You'll get to hear that.
She's actually been driving the battery with no computer.
So, my question would be, does the mosquito control pesticides actually kill the bats, or is it just the food source that it kills? That would be, when you have mosquito control go through, does that actually kill the bat itself, or does it just kill the food source?
It does both. It
Okay.
depends on how the insecticide is delivered. With aerial spraying, which is the worst possible scenario in our opinion, the bat is going to be receiving the pesticide no matter where it's flying from top down. So it
Okay.
can't really escape that. If it's a fogger truck, the bat can actually leave the area and will just disappear from the area for a time frame. The problem is the bat's going to come back to that area and hunt those insects that may have been dusted or sprayed, and
Yeah.
once they eat the
Okay.
bug, then it can potentially kill the bat.
Gotcha.
Depending on the insecticide, one poison bug can actually kill the bat. Yeah. No, they don't. Listen, nothing is love bugs. Try it, right?
At least they don't bite.
I venture to argue with you. Yeah, you eat one like
The problem with love bugs is they're out during the day, and they're not typically an animal that has to interact with. Let me see if I can get our frequency right. There she is. That clicking noise that you're hearing, I can get the frequency right. Here's my book. This is a heterodyne bat detector. It just takes the sound you can't hear that she's making and translates it to a sound that you can. And that's her channel. She's doing what we call communication calls or question and click calls. She can see you really well. They have excellent vision. She knows you're here. She's interacting with all of you. She's saying, "Hi, did you bring me a snack? I'm hungry." I'm pretty.
Hey, John, how does Brevard County come out here to spray? Do they only come out when they're requested by a citizen, or do they routinely spray, or do?
Yeah, it's a routine. No, it's a routine. They're required by Florida statutes to spray. It is. That's why you have mosquito control, MSTU. I mean, there's a whole governmental function surrounding mosquito control.
So as a city, we don't really have
Very little control over it.
very little power.
I mean, we could ask them to leave certain areas alone. We can explore that. But Titusville contemplated doing this like 5 years ago. Not bats, but tried to get the pesticides decreased a little bit. And we looked into it, and it was real hard.
If you have bees, you can call it. That way, I had it South Carolina.
I think on Beachside they do the trucks more because of our breeze. Right? Am I correct? Trucks, yeah.
Excuse me, everyone. Sherry's going to be out in the foyer. So anybody wants to get up close and personal with the bats, she'll be out in a little bit.
They don't care. When you speak to the
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I appreciate your attention. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Oh, yeah.
Time will change.
Oh, yeah? You need to go. We're going to appoint you to the subcommittee of the community garden anyway, so you can.
That's fine.
If you would like, staff can come back at your next meeting. Is your microphone not working? If you would like, staff could come back at your next meeting with kind of an outline of what the mosquito spraying rules are and how they do it here on Beachside, and if there's any options of reducing it, we can do that for your next meeting.
Okay, next item on the agenda, discuss take action on the Smart Yard Advisory Committee. Do we have any public comment on that?
Actually, I think we do. I wasn't able to meet your sub-meeting, but my good buddy Allison Ortega is here. She is part of the Litter Quitter program, and they have a similar program. I'll let you explain it yourself. But I think this could be a lot of synergy potential here for your program. That's why
So my name's Allison Ortega. I work for Keep Brevard Beautiful, and we are currently developing a program called Lagoon Friendly Lawns. I brought you guys some information on that. Let me hand that real quick. I won't take too much of y'all's time today, but I just kind of wanted to throw this idea out there. So basically the idea is, I don't know how many of you heard Maggie Herchala's speech at the Brevard Indian River Lagoon Coalition meeting that was at FIT a few months ago. But she was basically talking about all the different steps we need to take to address the issues with the lagoon and the nutrient pollution. And she said one of the most important things is to close the barn door, to prevent sources of nutrients, nitrogen and phosphorus, from getting into the lagoon in the first place. And to kind of start that process, all we need to do is look in our backyards. Fertilizer is a huge source of nitrogen pollution in our lagoon. And when we get these nutrients into the lagoon, they fuel algal blooms. And these algal blooms basically suck oxygen out of the water, and we get massive fish kills like the one we had a few months ago in the spring. So luckily it's a problem that we can all kind of be a part of the solution to. So Lagoon Friendly Lawns is basically a certification program. We're going to launch it all throughout Brevard County. So we're making nice wooden signs for homeowners that kind of qualify through the program. There's basically 3 levels of certification. So on the most basic level, all you have to do is follow best lawn care practices. So that's things like we're going to be following the summer fertilizer blackout ban, because there's still people in our county that don't know it even exists. So it's kind of a peer-to-peer marketing campaign to educate people about these lawn care best practices, things like picking up your dog poop. That can get into a lagoon as well. Things like making sure you're not blowing your lawn clippings into the lagoon or into storm drains. That's kind of the most basic level of certification. The second level is going to incorporate some stormwater retention practices. So we're not getting runoff from our lawns into the lagoon, because that carries soil and clippings and stuff with it that contributes to nutrients as well. And it's also going to be encouraging homeowners to reduce their turf area. So replacing it with flower beds, replacing it with native plants. And then kind of our gold star certification level is also going to be including bringing some of those ecosystem benefits back by planting natives and by providing wildlife habitat in your yard. So those are kind of the main levels of it. We're looking to launch this program basically as soon as possible, and we're looking for community partners on it. So you guys have an example. The first page of your little packet is what the signs are going to look like. We're working with the screen printers now to get the first prototypes of that. So some of our community partners, like the Sebastian Inlet Surfrider Foundation, are contributing $500 per partner to do a run of 100 signs like that. And then these are going to be able to be provided free to the homeowners that qualify through the program. And again, it's kind of a peer-to-peer marketing program. Someone puts this sign in their yard, their neighbors see it, say, what's that? I want to be a part of that to help the lagoon. So it's a really easy way for people to be involved with a community-level solution to this. And for the future of this program, what we'd really like to do is Keep Brevard Beautiful is an affiliate of Keep America Beautiful. So there are chapters in counties all across the country, including in many areas along the lagoon. So we would like to be able to export this program eventually to the other chapters in the lagoon region, because there's 5 or 6 counties within this region that it could work in. And then also, we want to apply for grant funding to be able to fund citizens to convert their landscapes to those that would qualify at the upper levels of this program, to be able to reduce nutrient inputs. So any questions about that? The next pages in your packets too are an example of the website, just kind of a printout of what it is. And then the second page you can see is kind of a more in-depth. There's a section of it on kind of the 4 core concepts that I mentioned. And so those are breakout boxes. We printed that out for you guys. And then the last page is the form that people fill out to get certified. So it's kind of a checkbox form. They send all of that information to us on what qualifying initiatives they have in place. They're also going to have to send us photos that show that they do in fact have those initiatives. So if they tell us that they have a rain barrel, we need to see a picture of their rain barrel so we know it does exist. And then the bat houses is a great way potentially to qualify for the gold certification level, where you're also providing wildlife habitat. So any questions preliminarily?
Is this just for homeowners, or is this
Also
certifying
businesses. Yep, both.
Okay,
Yep.
so this is actually certifying businesses. Are you focusing on like fertilizer content and things like that, or is it?
Yeah, kind of all of it. So there's, the 4 levels. Nutrient pollution is the most basic level, also stormwater retention, ecosystem benefit restoration, and reduced turf area. And there's, through those check boxes, you can see exactly what the requirements are for each level.
So similar to something
It's
we're
very similar to.
working on now, and we actually just had our first subcommittee meeting yesterday.
Yeah? Well, maybe we should get together then.
Yeah, absolutely. Our next subcommittee meeting's on the 7th, isn't it?
This looks like it's very much focused to the homeowner, which the city was looking at, focusing on certifying actually companies that, the mowing companies, the landscape maintenance companies, things
Yeah,
like that.
this is very focused on the individual property owner, whether it be a business or a homeowner, yeah.
Would Keep Brevard Beautiful be willing to serve on our subcommittee to
Yeah, sure.
see if we can move it together?
Yeah.
Is that something you're interested in?
Yeah, and we're reaching out to a whole bunch of community partners. I just met with UFIFAS earlier today to talk about this program, and they were excited about it. We've been working with the Indian River Lagoon National Estuary Program and the development of this whole idea in the program. So we're also working with Anglers for Conservation, Surfrider Foundation actually as well. So we really want there to be synergy with other programs that are out there with us. So.
Yeah, this sounds very similar to Rodney's.
Rodney's is pure education.
Yeah, and that's what we've talked about too.
They're not doing businesses there, they're just
And
doing.
it's not as artists, local artists, so it's about kind of.
Yeah, so I've been talking with Mike Conine over at Anglers for Conservation, and the way that we want these two programs to work together is that if we have someone who is interested in doing something for the lagoon but can't get certified through a program, we're going to send them to him. He can just give them a sign. If he has people that have signs but want to take an action for the lagoon, then he can send them to us and they can get certified and take some of these actions to reduce their nutrient inputs. So.
The only comment that I would also make is in the program that our group was discussing at the last meeting, was they were looking at actually not certifying companies that put any fertilizer down at all.
Mm-hmm.
So within 2 years of the program, they would look at only certifying companies that used organic fertilizer.
Okay.
So the synthetic fertilizer wouldn't, if that company
The
used that.
thing I would
not
say
use
is
it.
that as far as the lagoon is concerned, it doesn't matter whether the source of the nitrogen and phosphorus is organic or inorganic, it's the nutrients that cause the algal blooms, so.
I think most scientists would disagree with that. All the scientists that we had on the committee were promoting, and this is Lisa Soto with MRC. I mean, the organic fertilizer was Sally Scalera with the Extension Service, and it was really more like, using, when I say organic fertilizer, like worm castings.
Okay.
That's the type of stuff they were looking at.
Gotcha.
I think maybe the discrepancy there has more to do with the media in which the nutrient is contained.
Correct.
Because she was talking about the organic material, that actually gets into you put that in the ground and it stays in the ground and it continues to collect nutrients that rather than just percolating right through the sand. And
Right, you want it
more
to be
do with
slow
that
release,
than,
yeah.
Just the chemical structure, the nutrients.
Yeah, and we were talking to Sally about these guidelines for it, and certainly open to input from our partners, so anything that you guys have, just let us know.
We should definitely at least investigate, kind of a
Well,
synergistic relationship.
the group was talking about adding in the homeowner focus, so that might be a way to do it, is to combine and then the only other comment I would have is for the stormwater retention, I would make sure that the city that you're working in allows what you're doing here, because there's a lot of cities that don't.
As far as rain barrels?
Rain barrels, 30% or more non-turf permeable yard, drain spouts are pointed at permeable surfaces. A lot of cities require that your retention is completely focused off your property, still. So this might be a way to educate the cities in changing their codes,
Yeah, great, thank you. Anything else? Okay, thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Anyone else? All right, since there's none, I think I'd like to just turn this one over to Courtney. Barker's going to talk to us about the advisory group.
I'm going to introduce Jalen Holmes and Megan Cominelli, and they're going to give you an update. These are our interns, by the way. Megan is an FSU student, so she automatically gets in just for that reason. And then and Jalen is at Satellite, and you're going to be a senior?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
We really appreciate them.
Yes, they actually got us to the point where we're at right now, so it's good.
All right, regarding last night's meeting, we were meeting on the exact same topic that you brought up. We had some very close relations in that. The Cognate last night really focused on businesses and certifying businesses. We wanted to really make sure that we're promoting education regarding the Smart Yards certification program. What we wanted to do, and these ideas aren't, down packed right now. We're still sorting those out. What we wanted to do was we wanted to have a 2-year, 2-year window for businesses that wanted to be certified to have the time to convert from synthetic, if they were using synthetic fertilizers, over to organic fertilizers. And also, we wanted to make sure that we educated the businesses on practices such as using organic fertilizer and making sure that it's down packed in the yard. Making sure also that the grass clippings aren't blown into the street, because that can also get into the storm drains. And also, we're coming up with names for this program also, so if your child, says something random and you hear it and it sounds good for this program, please let us know. Feel free to contact any one of us. Also, let's see, this is, the goal of this is to help promote the health of the Indian Lagoon River. As you guys know, there's been a huge fish kill, and it's very evident. And we believe by having this program that we're going to be able to save it. And with that being said, you guys have anything?
Anything else? You good? Okay. And then I just wanted to add that the committee asked us to, they made a lot of changes from what we had originally proposed. So we're going to be meeting again on the July 7th, right? Or July 5th? 7th? Okay, sorry. July 7th at 3 o'clock to go over the changes that they asked for. A lot of it had to do with, we were trying to get people to apply the fertilizer by our ordinance, which still allows, obviously, synthetic fertilizer. But they felt that, why are we even promoting that? Maybe we need to just get people to just switch, and so that's the direction they went. Now, they also wanted to give people time, companies time to get there, and then also go through the training that they would have to go through with the extension service and stuff like that to get the certification. So we gave a 2-year window. So we're putting that together. And then they also wanted to see what the audience was in terms of what was the breakout of the companies. So, how many people actually use the True Greens and the flowers and so on, as opposed to how many people only got a lawn service to just cut their lawn and they put their own fertilizer on, or how many people did everything themselves. And so we wanted to do some research and put out kind of like a Survey Monkey through Facebook and just kind of get some idea of what people are doing. We also were going to use our COP volunteers to go door to door to some of the older groups of people that we know to get that age group and get some survey information. And so that's going to be the focus of our interns for the next month, is getting that information for the community. And that's it.
Next is reusable bag program. We're going to have Member Pause speak to us on that. But first, any public comment on that?
Get rid of all plastic.
Working on it.
I mean, Publix has nice bags.
You have to come up to the podium. I'm sorry.
Again?
Yes. Introduce yourself again.
Hi, my name's Jeannie. I'm a resident, long time I'm here. Anyway, my father was born in 1901, and I grew up in a Christmas tree nursery in Pennsylvania. And so I've always had my hands in the dirt and been in the conservation aspect, and then my children growing up, as you heard my son. It's got to the point where a friend of mine said, when you go to the grocery store, just go to the outside, because everything is plastic. It's getting so bad, everything, let's take our soup, it's in plastic, and then we put it in the microwave, and then we eat it. So how can we, I just lost my whole train of thought. The plastics is something that I wanted to find out how much in our community could we once again get rid of all those squishy little bags and go to, the hemp should have been used a lot more than it's been used, but anything natural, so that once again our community can really stand out, because I mean people really wait for years to come to the beach side, and it should be super pristine. Why not? It can be done, and it'll take a little bit of time, but everybody's talking about the same thing. And so since we have like minds, my thought is get rid of as much as we can, and I wanted to thank Julie. She did say, and I wanted to congratulate everybody, that the next events that will be happening in Satellite Beach, styrofoam free. A lot of people are going to balk because we just did the Indian River Lagoon Fest, and I went around personally, I got things signed for cigarette butts and blah, 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 and I asked all of the distributors that were making food, why are you using styrofoam? Do you have any idea about the environment? Well, number one, they didn't care. It's cheapest. So that's what we're fighting. We're fighting an industry that's buying cheap, it's polluting the world. So, no plastic, thank you very much.
Long story short, I think what this campaign is all about is small changes that we can all make that have big impact. And one of the smallest changes we can all make is bringing a reusable bag instead of taking another plastic bag. And that's exactly what this campaign is all about. We've already reached out to local businesses. We're still trying to find more partners to come in. Basically, as many allies as we can find in the town to help us distribute the bags and adopt more eco-friendly packaging, not getting this junk in the community in the first place. But in the interest of brevity, since I am also the next agenda item, I was thinking we might just leave it at that for this meeting. Plenty more information coming, though. Educational videos. I could go on for hours, but they'll get mad at me. So I figure we'll just leave it there, if that's okay. Unless there's any objection or further comment, I'm sorry.
My name's Adam Ross. We're new to the area, but we're coming out of Montana where we compost a lot and all that other stuff. But even speaking on the reusable bag program, there's lots of things you can do even at your own house. So one thing we do is we have 2 dogs, but we have to get the big things of dog food. So we turn the dog food bags into reusable bags. You just sew handles on them. So it's very easy. So think about things you throw away, and you can turn them. So there's people who sold them at the farmers markets up in Montana. They just take all the bags and sew them, put handles on them, and it's a reusable bag. So ingenious ways of not throwing stuff away.
Ultimate form of recycling.
Granted, it's not organic, but, you know,
Well,
it's a bag that you're going to throw away.
To be fair,
But it's a reuse.
these
bags technically are not organic either, but what they are made out of is recycled plastic. So the idea is, instead of throwing these plastic bags in the landfill where they're just going to sit there and not rot, you get some more use out of them. And by using the bag, you're offsetting the carbon imprint of creating them. But again, there's a lot more detail on that coming, so I don't want to chew on my foot too bad here. Were there any other questions or public comment?
Could I ask one question? Sitting down. So the bags that you are going to use instead of having plastic are recycled plastic?
This particular bag, yes, is recycled plastic.
Is that
Now,
what you're going to promote for the town?
that is yet to be determined, but just, that's still one of the many things coming together still on that. But by next meeting, we should have a much more clear update, because by then I'll have
So you
all.
thought that was more productive to use than a quote-unquote cloth or cotton bag?
The issue is cost. The issue is cost. These are $1 per unit, whereas a more hardy, like organic cotton or canvas or hemp or other materials, they're just more expensive. And so now the question becomes, what does the best good? Getting less of them that are more environmentally friendly, or compromising on that to get more of them into the community.
At least it's a recyclable.
Absolutely.
Which is very.
Absolutely. And that's just.
Well, and reusable for many years. I mean,
Absolutely.
we have, at our house and in my wife's car, we have those bags, you know, the green ones from Publix and different oddball ones from different stores and stuff, and I think they last a long time. And I haven't seen one rip yet.
And they're washable. So when they get junky, you can throw them in the washing machine and clean them up again. So.
Did this trip into Indian Harbor Beach?
Unfortunately, I believe
The
our,
ideas that are here as a totally large community, not just the town of?
We sincerely hope. We sincerely hope that what we're trying to work on here will spread over there. All right. Discuss take action on rooftop PV solar. Any public comment? Okay, since there's none, turn it back over to Mr. Claus.
alrighty. Dr. Ferguson and I have been working on this in a subcommittee, and before I begin, I think that I'd like to make a motion. I'd like to explain it with this spreadsheet or the PowerPoint, but I'd like to move that we recommend to the City Council that we investigate PACE funding and see if it is a viable option to our homeowners to help encourage more solar roofs here in town. Now, to explain why I'm proposing that and why I think it's a good idea, I'd like to run through a few slides. Again, in the interest of brevity, I won't make you watch the video, but for those who are not familiar, PACE stands for Property Assessed Clean Energy. Now, basically, that program is all about financing for homeowners who want to do a clean energy project on their home. They'll finance up to 100% of the project cost. It's not based on your FICO score. It's a fixed-rate loan available for terms up to 25 years, and it's available for residential and commercial properties. It's assessed via your tax bill, which is why they need partnership with our city to make that happen, and it's got a 72% application approval rate. For those of you who aren't familiar, I recently went and, well, Dave disappeared, so I guess he doesn't mind if I say a few of our board members have gone ahead and gotten solar roofs, which is great, trying to understand these numbers better and what the break-even point is and so forth. The problem is, not a lot of people have $20,000 or $30,000 in cash sitting in their bank account ready to do it. So what about for, everybody else who wants to do solar? So just to run through a quick example here, and I'm going to try to be as brief as I possibly can. The idea here, my goal was to see what would it look like if I wanted no out-of-pocket expense whatsoever. I don't want to pay a dime out of my own pocket. And running numbers based on not only my own quote, but the one provided by Mr. Bigliotti, we run through these numbers. There are a lot of factors. We can give you all spreadsheet poisoning if you want to come to one of our sub-meetings. But again, today I'm going to try to give you brevity. The idea here is out-of-pocket is $0. And the key points to remember here, we're not looking at what the best return on investment would be, because for best ROI, you would not want to finance 100%. You wouldn't want to wait 25 years to pay it back. One nuance to understand is one of the pieces of a solar PV system is what's called an inverter. And this is a simple piece of technology that takes DC current from the panel and puts it up in AC current that you can use through your outlet. Now, this technology is getting better all the time, but right now they last roughly about 10 years. So you have an issue where in the life of a 25-year roof, you're going to need to replace these things about 2 times. What I did, again, to get zero out-of-pocket cost, I wrapped that into the cost of the note. So in other words, I'm borrowing one amount. It includes everything I need for 25 years, which is how long everything else is warranted for. So hopefully they don't die the day the warranty expires, but even if they do, that's the assumption here. The idea is thinking about everything in terms of monthly cash flow. So let's dig into this here. The beautiful thing, and I can't make it any clearer than this, month 1, you're up a nickel. That's a nickel in your pocket. And more specifically here, the numbers you're looking at here do not include any discounts or tax credits or any of the other things we've discussed. In other words, this is my out-of-pocket expense. I finance the entire thing, plus 2 inverters that I don't need yet, just so I don't have any out-of-pocket expense. And if we compare it, a quick point, the system does not do 100% of my power, it generates 85%. So what this means is I still do have an electric bill, but as you can see, it goes from $150 down to $22.50. My loan payment there at 5.99% interest over 25 years comes to $127.45. So my net monthly savings, month 1, no out-of-pocket expense, is that nickel that I'm holding. Cash money in your pocket. Now, it gets a lot better. Right now, the federal income tax credit is 30% for those who qualify, meaning my out-of-pocket expense, 30% of that is credited towards my income taxes at the end of the year. Now, if you were to take that number of your income credit and then apply it to the total balance to reduce your loan payment, which is what you see here, your relative loan payment now goes to $89.22. Your monthly savings are now almost $40. And again, that's month 1. And we're only getting to the good news, because now we have to factor in inflation. FPL has already announced that they're going to jack our rates 2.8% per year. I'm sorry? 2.4, I stand corrected. But the point is, inflation is a reality of the electric bill, and I ran my numbers at 2.5%, trying to be conservative. The idea here is in 25 years, that electric bill that started at $150 is now up to $278. My reduced bill also inflates up to about $41. But my loan payment, which is a fixed loan over 25 years, never budges. As a result, my net monthly savings in the last month of the loan is $147. The savings add up significantly. One obvious problem, what about people on fixed incomes? What about people who don't earn enough income to qualify for the tax credit? Obviously, that doesn't do them any good. Well, luckily, they still benefit greatly. For somebody with fixed income, the way to think of this is a hedge against inflation. In other words, they're still up a nickel month 1, and although they'll never get that tax credit, their numbers won't ever look as good as mine. But 25 years out, their electric bill hasn't moved. It's frozen at that loan payment. It's one of the best hedges for inflation you could get, in my opinion, for somebody on a fixed income. Point being, this is good for everybody. This is good for young couples who just like the idea of powering their house from the sun. This is good for middle-aged couples who want to increase the equity of their home. This is good for grandma and grandpa who are on a fixed income and need to worry about inflation. Whether you love the environment or you think I'm a hippy-dippy wasting my time, we all can appreciate a nickel in our pocket, right? So I think that makes us friends here. Beyond PACE funding, something that we can also do for the city is basically just become the best ally to our local solar installers that we can. One thing we consider is reducing our monthly our permitting fees. Another thing we might consider is a expedited permitting process. Now, this is all way above my pay grade, so I brought people far smarter than me to talk and explain a little bit more about that. A final note, we have, just to food for thought, that giant Schechter Center that has that beautiful roof right there, just wasting time and not making us any money. The ROI makes sense. From the city's bottom line point of view, forget the environment. This is just dollars and cents. I cannot encourage this enough. It's just win-win any way I look at it. And, yeah, Mick.
I can interrupt.
Please.
I talked to John Stone.
Oh, you're a step ahead.
$84 is your permit fee. Can't get a whole lot lower than that
Fair enough.
unless you made it free. And it's basically a one-day turnaround.
Yeah, we're really fast.
So we're already,
So that's not an issue here. It might be elsewhere, but those, I mean, when you're buying $20,000 system, $84, just, you know, it's...
Yeah, we sometimes have same-day inspections.
right on. Easy peasy then. We can focus on the pace. And at some point, I'd like to do an educational campaign once the bag campaign has gotten underway, all the same tricks as you see there. But I did introduce, or I'd like to introduce rather, Will Ratliff here. He's a local installer. He puts these systems in. To quote him, he makes deals like this every day. I love that. I can't say that enough. And next to him, Don Hughes, no relation to our local fire chief, I believe, but an incredible credentials right there. He's been all over the place helping people. Again, much smarter guys than me. So I figure I'd open it up for public comment if you guys want to come up. If anybody here has any questions or anything you guys want to get some more info on, these would be the guys to ask.
Shall we go together?
Is that okay? Am I breaking rules? Great.
On top of that, there's a lot of incentive to the cities. There's the SPARK program, which is the Solar Power America by recognizing... I'm sorry, you have to introduce yourself. Oh, my name is Don Hughes. I'm with the Center for Sustainable Energy. I work from my home here in Satellite Beach. I'm a Satellite Beach resident. Moved here about a year ago, and I work from home for a nonprofit out of San Diego, California. And I work with the California Governor's Office and the Department of Energy as a consultant through them and for solar permitting. And been involved with solar for years, and I'm involved with all the codes and standards and that solar underwriters laboratories for all the products, safety standards and that. So I was going to say, Will, did you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I can. Let me just get over. My name is Will Ratliff. I'm with the Green Energy team out of Longwood, Florida, here out of Orlando. I've been in the construction business for over 20 years as a project manager and business owner in construction. I've been in energy conservation for a little over 10 years. The current company that I'm with, we are big proponents of education in solar. You can't fix a problem until you educate your residents, your business owners, and get them out of the feel of it's too expensive to do, because it's just not anymore. So that's just a little bit of my background.
So I didn't mention I was a former chief electrical inspector for Santa Clara County, California for 17 years before I retired and moved here. So I have a lot of building department experience and stuff too. So what I was saying was SPARK it recognizes communities that reduce red tape for solar PV, and it's a brand new DOE funding that the Solar Foundation is offering, I believe, $175,000 to they're going to qualify some jurisdictions that decide to participate, and basically you can show that you've reduced red tape. You guys have amazing, your permit costs and your inspection times you rival a lot of California jurisdictions that we've worked with for years and years. So seriously, you guys are way off the charts with that. And that's awesome. So I think you guys really would be in line, since you're at the ground floor, you're already doing great things, and if you can just get this ball rolling, you could really probably be good candidates for the Spark program. And I could provide you an introduction to the people that actually are running the program. So if you wanted to potentially look for some grant money, I think there's some. I think the top one is $350,000, and then the other awardees are going to be $175,000 each. For the
So
jurisdiction,
that's
the community.
for the installation of solar?
That is for the community. It's called Spark. Yeah, it's a Department of Energy funded program called Spark. It's Solar Powering America by Recognizing Communities. It's SPARC. It's run by the Solar Foundation is the ones that receive that grant fund on that. And I worked with the president of the Solar Foundation, Andrea Lux. I can give you an introduction anytime you want. But I think it's a great program. I think this city really could be in line to be an awardee on that.
What does the city have to do to be PACE?
I'd have to look at all of the things for PACE is a different thing. PACE is completely different. That's a financing thing. You probably know more about the PACE programs than I do as far as what the city has to do. But for Spark,
all the city has to do is adopt the resolution. There are 3 PACE providers in the state, and you would provide a resolution for each one, that what it does, what it's needed for, is to authorize them to put the loan onto the assessment on the property tax. That's all it's doing. And I've got all kinds of stuff I got from one of the vendors, that the background information.
So that's just a resolution, then it goes to the property appraiser, and they're prepared to get that information?
I'm not quite sure where, I'm not sure who it goes to, the mechanics, but I think once you got the resolution, it goes to PACE. PACE does what they need, the organization, they do what they need with it. And it's there's all kinds of protections in the agreement or whatever it is, that the municipality is not financially liable for any reasons or anything like that.
We'll make sure.
Yeah, I know. People will have fun with it.
Spark is just recognizing communities that reduce red tape and all of that sort of thing, that promote solar, that do do good things for solar. And you guys will be leading the way in Florida, since nobody's really doing a lot here in Florida. I think you guys would be a standout in the state of Florida.
If we were to get the Spark program, when you say the money is for the community, like what is it eligible for?
I would have to look all into it, but it's just an awardee thing to help develop programs or something. I think I'm not sure what it's used for. I'll give you guys an introduction
tomorrow. Could you give like a rebate to your residents who get it or stuff like that?
I don't know exactly what it involves, but it's a program that recognizes the jurisdictions for their efforts, and I don't know what you have to do with the money. I haven't looked into it that deep.
For what it's worth, he and John exchanged cards, and John said he'll call him tomorrow and sit down and...
Yeah, that was my mission, to reach out to you guys, because I was at AHJ, and I had helped write the State of California PV Permitting Guidebook, the Expedited PV Permitting Guidebook, and I helped write the State of California Zero Emission Vehicle Guidebook, and I was involved with all kinds of numerous projects for underwriters, laboratories, firefighter safety studies, and all of that. So I really wanted to reach out, being a new member of the community, and say, I'm here, and I'd like to provide any kind of support that I can in code interpretation standards, anything I can do to help you guys with solar. It sounds like you really already got your proverbial stuff together when it comes to permitting and inspection, and that's huge. That's a big step.
So why'd you move to Satellite Beach?
Because I needed to take in my sister-in-law. She has a terminal disease called Huntington's disease, and I was looking to upsize to a 3-bedroom, and living in San Jose, I think they started, 3-bedroom apartments go for about $3,000 a month, so I just decided, I was 55, and I have a little boy, so I decided we were looking for schools, and I have family here in Florida, so we decided to look at Florida. I grew up in Hermosa Beach, and it kind of reminds me of Hermosa Beach in the 60s here. It's just a beautiful town, and, just laid-back surf town, and the great schools that you guys have here. It was just... So I retired and pulled my pension and moved out here. But having written the state stuff, they said you need to stay and do technical support, and I said, well, I ain't staying, but I'll do the technical support.
Okay. We're glad to have you.
Found myself here.
I have a question about the PACE program. What are the, as far as requirements, do you have to have a certain amount of equity in your home?
No, there's as far as I know, and I'm not completely schooled on the PACE program, but as far as my understanding is there is no equity requirement in your home. The only requirement PACE pretty much lays out is that you have to be in good standing with your taxes. You gotta, it can't be behind or anything like that. Their financing program is once it's in place, it's very streamlined. It works really well, as good as any of the commercial financing avenues that we also have. The nice thing about PACE over some of the commercial things is your residents that are low income, older, fixed income, sometimes even if they have a okay credit score, they won't qualify to be able to finance an open market where PACE can come in and fill that void for them.
Is the interest rate fixed for the PACE program, or is it?
It is fixed, but it also is, it's fixed for the area, because you can go to different PACE areas, and the rates are a little bit different. And you might have a little bit better answer, but my understanding is depending on the area, it's between 5.99 and 7.99.
And how does that compare with commercial financing?
Our financing it's very comparable. I mean, it's like anything. Most of our financing through all of our vendors that we have, we've been at this 31 years, is 4.99 to 5.99.
And can anybody do it? Can you use it on rental properties or businesses, or can
the PACE program, I believe you can. I don't know on that one.
I think it was.
It's not just owner occupant.
Right.
I think you could do it on a rental property. You could do it I'm 99% sure on commercial property. A key thing is PACE goes with the property, not with use. In other words, I take out a PACE loan on my house. 3 years from now, I sell my house. At closing, if they don't want to pick it up, then I pay it off. Or they can say, hey, yeah, we'll just go, and so they get the benefit of the loan. So any way that, you can play that.
What is the term? Like how long? I missed that at the end.
25 years.
25 years?
You can go
Up to 25 years.
Can you make it smaller?
Yes.
What's that?
You can set it whatever you want?
Yeah, and I believe the guy that I talked to said there's no prepayment
No.
penalty.
Okay.
So in other words, you come into an inheritance, you pay it off, you're done.
Same as commercial.
Right.
I was thinking you might want to mention, because I was really impressed with what you were saying about commercial. About the payback.
The payback time.
Kind of going through a scenario.
And the papers that I gave you, the first page are very basic layman's but true numbers on a residential house when you're talking about a $200 a month power bill, reducing it $100 under a program. The cost that you see there on that program is after a tax rebate. We do usually factor that in because about 85 to 90% of people do qualify for the tax rebate. The only thing that stops people from, if you don't know this, the only thing that stops people from qualifying for the tax rebate, or doesn't stop them from qualifying, stops them from enjoying that 30% return, is that they do have to pay income taxes. And they have to have a tax liability. A lot of people don't understand that they've been told that they get a 30% check back from the federal government, and that is not how it works. You have to have a liability of some kind in order for the federal government to kick in their 30%. Now, most people do have a liability. Where you start running into the issues is some of your fixed income people who don't pay taxes. That doesn't stop them from the program making sense to them. It just doesn't make as much sense. They're not, getting that money back. As long as they have a tax liability of some kind, they can claim that 30%, and the federal government has that set up for 3 years. You can claim it in 3 consecutive years. So you don't have to claim that benefit all at once. You get 3 years to claim that benefit. Commercial is the exact same way. They get the 30% tax credit on any PVC system that's put in their building. The big thing for commercial, though, is that along with the 30% tax credit, they also get accelerated depreciation. And if you're not real familiar with that, it's when you buy a piece of equipment, it has a longevity. Federal government says that you can write off a portion of that every year as depreciation for your business taxes. Now, with the accelerated depreciation on solar only, and that's a big caveat with the accelerated depreciation program with them, you get to accelerate that in 5 years. You have a product that is going to last you 35 years or longer, but you can accelerate all of that cost in 5 years. And so that's a big thing. The next big bonus that they authorized again in 2014 is the 50% bonus program for solar. So your first year as a business owner, you can claim the 30% tax credit, so you get that money back. You also, then at that point, can claim 85% or 85% depreciation on the system. The federal government says you can do the 30%, but when you go to depreciate, you can only depreciate 85% of the total cost. Well, you're still 15% ahead of the game because they are giving you the 30% tax credit. In that first year of that 85%, you get to depreciate 50% in the 50% bonus program that's still in effect at least for the next year, and you get that first 20% for that first year of deduction. Second year is 32%, next year after that's 19%, then it drops down to an 11 and 11 if I remember correctly. So you get to depreciate that off. Most of your commercial projects, if they can take advantage of the full tax credits that they're getting, if they're large enough to take full tax credits, they're talking about a payback time in less than 3.5 years. And then you're talking of taking let's say and that's the second page of the commercial, taking a $1,600 a month power bill, cutting it in half at $800. You have a payback time in 3 years, but over 8, and that's just a 20-year chart. Your return is 265, so you're up $110,000 of cash in your pocket. And that's just based on taking the first year. That's not based on the depreciation of the following years. That's just first year real number depreciation. And so you can make a significant amount more of that because you're writing off that cost faster than you normally would. The nice thing too, and it hasn't happened yet, it's coming up for a vote in August, and it's not going to pass this year, is allowing third-party leases, or no, not leases, but third-party sellers. Meaning that right now, we have our hands tied in the state of Florida because the utility companies have a chokehold on legislation. You cannot sell your power to whoever you want to, like you can in California and most states. You have to sell it back to them. They're charging you commercially, residentially, let's say anywhere from 10.5 to 12.5, 13 cents. They are only required to buy it back from you at 3.5. Now that legislation is going to change. It's changed in every state. It's probably still another couple of years out because when they wrote the legislation this year, if you want third-party vendorship in the state of Florida, you have to vote no against the initiative. If you're against it, you have to vote yes. So we're almost positive it won't pass this year, but it will pass. The exciting thing for that for homeowners and for business owners and even for the city to a certain point is that then the system that you bought, as long as you have the space, the system that you bought for your home or your business, you're buying it at an 85% capacity because it doesn't make any sense to size your system to 100% because you will be selling power back to the company, and financially that makes no sense. Why spend the money on the extra panels when they're only going to give me 3 cents for it? Now, when that law passes, they're going to be paying you basically market price for it. So you're talking you'd be getting 10 to 13 cents for each kilowatt that you're sending back into the system. At that point, if you have a huge amount of roof space, that's a money-making machine for you. You want to go and add those extra panels to you, and because then it starts making cost-effective sense to add that size to start pushing it back into the system. And lots of other states do that. They oversize their systems, so they're selling it back. Here in the state of Florida, Duke Energy, FP&L, they just have a chokehold on it. So until we do that, we have clients that are just chomping at the bit. We used up a quarter of their roof space, and they're just waiting for that legislation to pass. So that's a futuristic thing, but sometime in probably the next 2 or 3 years, we'll get that thing passed. So as a city, not only could you produce power, it might be an income source to a city. Same thing for a residence and/or a commercial.
Some states don't. I know California is obviously leading the way with solar. They have what they call net zero. So you only pay the public utility for the power that you use. So when your solar's running, your meter's running backwards, and when you're using power, your meter's running forward, and at the end of the month, you pay for what you used, and they don't pay you anything for what you give them below zero. That's net zero. And the third-party thing is going to change pretty soon in Florida, because the family, the guy, basically Elon Musk, that owns SpaceX, also owns Solar City. And SpaceX is looking to, Tesla is looking to put Solar City under the Tesla umbrella, but it's basically owned by Elon Musk and his two cousins, Lyndon and Peter Rive. So it's not going to be long before Florida changes that legislation. You get third-party companies like Solar City and SunPower that'll put a PV system on your house for free and just sell you the power like a utility, which is a lot cheaper anyway. Personally, I think I'd own the system because it's 5 years, you're not paying any electric bills.
Yeah, financially, it's more sense. And for financing purposes, you don't finance them, you're leasing them through that, and that's why they don't do it in the state of Florida yet, is because there is no third party. But financially, since when you're talking about breaking it down for costs for long term, it is now at the point where it makes more sense to purchase a system than it does to lease the system.
Since you talked about the August referendum, you want to present any comments on the November referendum?
No, I don't have anything on that one right now.
Shut it down. Yeah.
Well, it's just, the public's very confused between the two referendums. And, so if you have a referendum on the November ballot that says, vote yes to allow solar, which we already have the right to have solar, I can see a lot of people who don't understand that voting on that, which then would give FPL the right or ability to basically charge solar users to maintain the rest of the system because they're losing customers. Right. But I think it's incredibly misleading, so I wouldn't be surprised if it passed. I mean, that was designed that way. But when we went through League of Cities to discuss the League of Cities actually opposed one of the the citizen initiatives because it interfered on franchise fees, which I was shocked that the League of Cities would do that. But there was probably 20 FPL representatives and Duke representatives in the room participating in those meetings. So they're obviously concerned with their company impacts. So.
Any questions?
This is really academic one, I'm sure, but you were talking about it doesn't make sense to buy the equipment to 100% capacity because you'll be selling it back at such a discount, I guess. And is that equipment just so completely scalable that when that does change, it's a simple matter to just plug some additional ones in and bolt them down?
Yeah, you can't go crazy with it. I mean, there are some limitations before you have to start changing out the D boxes on the side of the house because your inverters have so much wattage that it can carry. But for the most part, and I think Don will agree with me, it's a plug and play.
Depends on forethought.
Yeah.
I'm actually working right now. I'm funded by the Department of Energy for what I'm doing here today for the solar rooftop challenge stuff. But I also work under other grant funds. I'm working with a company right now as their AHJ outreach person who actually is doing plug-and-play technology where you have an electrician come in and wire up a specialty outlet, and then basically the homeowner can bolt the system down and plug it in. It's really getting simple. You can buy this stuff at Lowe's in California. You go to Lowe's or Home Depot and buy solar panels and put them on your roof yourself now.
Really, at Lowe's and Home Depot, they're selling them.
Yeah.
But not in Florida.
No, and we've actually fought some of the plug-and-play technology because of some of the circuit overloading that you're capable of doing with that with the homeowners not able to do.
Now, also, the FPL agreement, they have 3 levels, I think it is, and one of them, I think, only goes to 10 kW, I think is their first, and after that, they require insurance and all kinds of, there's some...
That's such a random number.
At some point, you want to be careful you jump into another category for FPL.
Right. Yeah, and I don't have the knowledge to answer that. efficiently.
10 kW isn't based on anything. That's so random. If you were going to pick a number, you'd probably set it at 13.44 kW.
Yeah, I think that's what FPL just arbitrarily picked that number, and that's,
The state of California did too for their expedited permitting requirements under Senate Bill AB 2188 or Assembly Bill AB 2188, required all jurisdictions in California to create an expedited permitting process. So that's where we got involved and wrote the state guide. We're updating it right now because of the 2014 NEC code changes that are coming in January. I was on the phone today with the California Governor's Office updating that for the rapid shutdown systems and some of the other emerging codes that are coming out.
and I guess one other that maybe Josh can want to talk a little bit about, is what happens when you lose the grid.
Well, one of the great features of the inverter I happen to buy, all made in America, by the way. So, exactly right. I can plug right into right there, and I am running live even if the hurricane has just taken down the grid.
Only up to 3 kW, but
Only.
that'll run a lot.
Yeah, there's a lot of misconceptions that people get a lot of battery backup systems and stuff, and they think that that's going to kick in when they're off the grid, and it really, you'd have to switch it over and stuff. It's coming though. There's technology coming with energy and load management systems and stuff. I know Outback Power has some systems that can take batteries and a generator and a PV system all in, and you can switch it. It'll automatically switch over. But inverters have an anti-islanding device in them, so that if you lose the grid, it kills the inversion process because it didn't want power to just be going nowhere. So
Well, that's what's neat with this system is.
Yeah, they provide you one receptacle that'll.
Yeah, one receptacle.
Yeah, one receptacle.
You can run a refrigerator or
Very
something like that
minimal,
when the
very
sun's out.
minimal.
Yeah, but I just thought that was really.
Yeah, it's coming.
Yeah.
You should see the technologies that come. And we met with some UL people from Japan and four or five automakers that are actually working on inverter systems. They have them now that you keep in your garage, and when you lose your power, you just plug your electric vehicle back into to where you charge it, and you plug it in this inverter, and you run off your electric vehicle for 4 or 5 days on essential loads. It's all about load management, how you set up your panel, how you take non-essential loads, and you can switch them over for EV charge. It's all coming down the pipe. So you guys have an advantage now that I'm here. I can help you guys too.
All right. Thanks very much.
Yep, so I will second Josh's motion.
Thank you.
I'd forgotten all about that.
That's a great start. Yeah, so who should I introduce to the Solar Foundation to get you guys started on this spark?
John Stone.
John Stone?
Yeah, when you talk to him, or he talks to you, yeah, John, can you try?
John, right here.
Yeah, sure. Okay. All righty, good. I'll do that. Sure. Awesome.
Any questions?
Thanks for having us.
Thank you guys for coming.
You bet.
very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
John Fergus,
Yes.
Mindy Gibson. Yes. David Floyd,
Yes.
Eugene Matthews,
Yes.
Josh Paz,
Yes.
Jeff Chastain.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, next item of business, discuss take action on the community garden subcommittee. Do we have any public comment on that? All right, being none, just turn it over to City Manager Barton.
We gave you a list of interested people that would like to serve on that subcommittee, so you would just need to come to an agreement on who you want on there, and we'll get it started. So. I know David would definitely want to be on that committee, so.
Yeah, I talked to him, he definitely didn't say no, but he didn't necessarily, he's wanted some more information. I don't know if he's gotten in touch with you since.
David Omler? Yes.
Okay, great.
Is it Omler or
Omler.
Yeah.
I think for my own thought process, I think the only issue in my mind really is, is there like a tipping point? Is there a number of members on this SOAR committee that once you're beyond that it's, more difficult for everybody to manage or anything like that? And we were talking about that, just before the meeting, and you kind of indicated that,
Yeah, I said 9, and
Yeah.
it's funny because there's 9 people on this list.
Yeah, well, I thought that was on purpose.
I know.
But,
I mean, unless anybody has any snags with anybody that's on that list, I don't know why we don't just have someone, I mean, vote, do we vote on that?
Yeah, we just need your motion to create the subcommittee, and we'll get it started.
I motion to create the subcommittee for the Community Garden Committee members.
Seconded.
So, Member Dixon,
John Fergus,
yes.
Eugene Matthews,
Yes.
David Bigliotti,
Definitely, yes.
David Floyd,
Yes.
Josh Potts,
Yes.
Mindy Gibson. Yes. Jeff Chasteen.
Yes.
Motion carried.
The next item on the agenda, project updates from board members. I kind of feel like we may have, through the process of what we've done so far tonight, we may have already done.
I'm not going to show the video tonight. I'm going to move to the next meeting, so it's...
Okay. You want to talk about your little...
I'd like to present everything at the next meeting, honestly. I've got everything together, so... I'll wait.
Okay, well, being none. Agenda items for next meeting. Any public comment on agenda items for our next meeting? No.
The beautification board is now, in the last not that many months, awarded their yard of the month to two very lagoon-friendly yards. Rodney's being one, and one's just a couple blocks from me. And I was wondering whether we ought to consider discussing with them or something. Do they want to either just continue doing that, or my wife has suggested like a lagoon-friendly yard of the month, something that, okay, here's a lawn, and maybe it's 90% grass, but whatever. You know, and then here's one that specifically is aimed more at the ones that are pushing the envelope a bit, maybe as far as reducing the lawn and doing some other stuff. It was just a thought.
You said the last few winters were already lagoon-friendly.
Well,
The last
no,
two.
not the last two. There was one, Rodney was
I see.
November, maybe.
I see.
This one is, I think it was the May or June one.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Still a minority of the winters.
Yeah. Do you mean 10 years ago, they would have never got it. So we're making progress.
Do you think that's an award that the Sustainability Board would do?
That's another possibility.
If the beautification board's already doing it, maybe we should just recommend to them to look at doing that for them.
Also.
Yeah.
Like they have two
Like they do
categories
that.
of yard
Yeah.
of the month.
Yeah. That was kind of,
I wouldn't take over their program.
no, I
That-
certainly wouldn't want to take over the yard of the month. It's just this idea, and not necessarily that it replace it, but that it be in addition to, or somehow, it was just a thought, and,
Well, how many months would go before they ran out of yards to award that to?
my wife and I did a survey of all the properties south of DeSoto, and just about 5% were what I would call nice, not the traditional St. Augustine lawn, at least has significant element of something else. About 5% were neglected, as being polite about it. But they weren't the St. Augustine lawn, they were just whatever. And then that leaves 90%, so you got on, a quarter of the city, about 5% of the city, so 3,000 single-family homes, 5% is 300, 150 homes.
So do we propose that to that board, that they undertake?
I would let John have that discussion with them when they have their next meeting.
Okay.
Well, their goal is beautification.
Mm-hmm.
But some of these lawns really are quite,
Yeah.
quite nice, but, beautiful in a different way.
Maybe they
In a more lagoon-friendly way.
Yeah.
They've kind of
I guess
always,
if we're trying to convince people to convert their lawns to a lagoon-friendly yard, do we start with the people that have, you'd want to start with the people that have green grassy lawns, right? Or would you want to start with the people that have a neglected lawn and try to get them to beautify it and add some kind of native? I mean, the beautification committee would obviously want the neglected lawn to be made into a lagoon. I mean, it's already lagoon friendly by default. You're not putting anything in it.
Just letting it fly. Yeah, but I guess you'd go either way, because we had a place just about 2 blocks from us that was neglected. I mean, the lawn was just not even sand spurs, it was basically just dirt. And the house was kind of in the same condition. It's sold, young family comes in, they're redoing it. And what that guy did, he came in, he graded it real nice, he put in some decent, a little bit of decent, like, there on Rosada and Maple. And then he seeded it in Seashore Paspalum. And you can, when you have to water, it'll take seawater.
What is it called?
Seashore Paspalum. It's a native to the sand dunes. If you look that up on the internet, Georgia's been pushing it. There's a couple companies. It's not real broad. It's being used in quite a bit in.
But it requires quite a lot of water too, right?
Once it gets established, as I understand, now, you're not going to keep your lawn like they do at a golf course, where, they just go in and it's just perfect. But, he and I were talking as it was growing out, and, he was getting seeds come up, and he'd take one and he'd pull it. He'd have a little sprig, and he'd have a root like this on it and stuff. And so you figure, it grows naturally on a dune. And nobody's watering those. And the water table's usually like 10 feet down or something, so it's and so I know of St. Augustine lawns. In fact, there's somebody in the audience now that has one. Hasn't been watered, hasn't been fertilized, and you couldn't identify
That's me.
one it is. Well, not you either. But the point, okay, that's 2 of them. The point is, if you train it right, it doesn't need it. But the Seashore Paspalum, it does not like nitrogen.
Oh, good.
Yes. And that's a plus. So, there's people doing these different things, and just begin to kind of recognize it, prod it, and let it germinate.
There's also a lot of people ripping up their weeds and putting down just regular sod too.
Mhm.
All right, well
So-
then, plant trees.
we can get with the beautification board and find out how they're looking at that. And they are looking at our code right now to look at how, because we get code enforcement complaints sometimes on native yards, so we're trying to get a standard together for that. And so John's working with them on that, and we'll figure out what their direction is and what they're trying to do, and we'll bring that back to you at your next meeting.
Okay, thank you. So our next item is adoption of minutes. And we cannot do that without a motion. So moved.
Second.
Mr. Ferguson and Mr. Matthews.
Josh Paz,
Yes.
David Bigliotti,
Yes.
Linda Gibson,
Yes.
David Floyd,
Yes.
Eugene Matthews,
Yes.
John Fergus,
Yes.
Jeff Chasteen,
Yes.
motion carried.
All right, thanks very much, and thanks so much for everybody that came out tonight, except for the night we had the big presentation with Dr.
You want
to? This is definitely
Great,
the
thank you.
the biggest participation we've had so far. Thank you.
Did it get
Thanks
more
very much
bad?
for
I
coming.
did want to.